Okay, so now that we've made our napkin, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our light pad. And as you can see, it's just a cute little A4 pad. We're going to grab our little Autumn is Calling chart. Okay, so we have our little light pad here. We're just going to place that on top. Now, I just usually grab a little piece of double-sided tape or a little bit of washi tape or something along those lines, and I'll stick that down. Okay, so that's going to stop that from moving now. Place one there. Right. Next, we're going to put our embroidery onto our napkin. So once you've got this stuck down, what you're going to do is just going to lay your napkin on there on the diagonal. So you're going to have, I don't know if you can see that with that light on, so I'll just turn the light off. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to place our napkin on the diagonal. And you're going to grab your ruler and you're going to come up around about to where the bottom of the leaf is. So I'll turn this on now and you should be able to see that pretty clear. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to, from this corner, we're going to place our ruler and we're going to measure up approximately 2 to 2.5 inches. I'm going to go about 2 1/4 here, and I'm going to place a dot. Okay, so I know that that's where my design's going to go. So I will place that dot so it's in the center, and then it should measure around 1 inch to the beginning of the leaf. So that is definitely 1 inch. If I make that measurement, it is where that leaf starts, it's about 1 inch. And the same on this side as well. All right, so I know that my leaf now has to fall into where those dots are, and I can see that it is sitting there quite nicely. So to make sure that that doesn't move like it just did then, I'm going to put a little piece of washi tape, and washi tape doesn't leave any residue, so it's a really good thing to have in your arsenal. I use it for seam guides for people and all sorts of stuff. Even for myself, if I need a thicker, like a thicker seam allowance, I'll use it on my sewing machine and it doesn't leave any residue. Whoop. All right, so what we're going to achieve now is we're going to trace out our design, and you can see that's up a little bit and it's about 1 inch from either side, and then we'll be able to stitch out our design. So all you're going to do now is making sure that that's in place. You've got it taped down. Here are my dots, and there is the edge of the design. And so now I can just start tracing that out. Okay, now I like to use friction pen because I don't have to stress about using a pigment pen, which means that I have to get my stitching absolutely 100% correct and on that line, because pigment pen does not come out of your fabric. So this way, if I do, you know, go a little bit off the line or my stitching's just not quite right, I don't have to worry about it, because when I press it, it will disappear. And don't get me wrong, I don't go in there haphazardly or anything like that. I do make sure that I am stitching on that line, but just in case, you know, life gets busy and sometimes you make mistakes, you know, or the kids come in and they bump you or something like that, and yeah. So there you go, you can see that's tracing out quite nicely. And this is something that you can do in a weekend. So you can, on one day, you can make all your napkins, and then the next day you can stitch it all out. So it's definitely a weekend project. Keep you out of mischief for a little while. Okay, so we have now traced out our little design. So I'm going to turn that light off, and you can see there that that's traced. We're going to remove our tape, and you can see there how easy that comes off, and also off the paper as well, because I stuck to that. Now, because you're going to be doing 4, you don't want to remove this just yet. So you're going to repeat that for all 4 of your napkins, and then we will be ready to stitch it out. Okay, so there you go. You can see that that is all done. All right, so the next step is to stitch out our embroidery, and all we're going to be doing is using a basic back stitch. Okay, so we have prepped out, we have made our napkin, we have prepped our ready for stitching, and I have just placed this into off camera into a little embroidery hoop. The next thing we need to do is grab our floss. As I said, we used Cosmo Seasons 5029, but you can use whatever floss you like. That's entirely up to you. You can have it match your decor, whatever you so choose. All right, I have cut a piece of floss, as you can see here, and we are going to strand our floss. We're going to use the loop method to start today, so you just need to pull out one strand. Okay, I've got bits of pieces going everywhere. Next, you're going to thread your needle. Okay, I like to use a large eye needle because it makes life just so much easier. So you can use you can use a chenille needle, which is what I recommend. They're quite sharp. Or you can use a sashiko needle, is another one you can use. Alternatively, if you're new to embroidery, you can actually use your cross stitch needle. It is a little bit trickier because it's not as sharp as the other ones. So yeah, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to thread our needle, and we're going to do a loop method, if I can ever get my needle threaded, so bear with me. The one thing that I can't do straight off is thread a needle. So I'm just going to grab my needle threader, just like so. Okay, so at one end you've got your where you've cut your thread, so you've got your 2 loose ends, and at the other end you've got a loop. All right, so I'm just going to start here down on the stem and work my way up. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go in through the top, and I'm going to come down about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and I'm going to go through on the top, and I'm going to bring that loop up, and always the way it gets caught on my little doohickey there, and then I'm going to come up where that stem starts, and I'm just going to go in to that loop, and then I'm going to come down just on the other side of that loop, okay, without splitting my threads, and I'm just going to pull that tight. So hopefully you can see that there. Okay, so to do back stitch, and I'm going to get in as close as I can, I'm going to, and I've got my first one in, and that's give me my loop method. So you can see there's no knot on the back or anything like that. It's going to keep it nice and clean on the back, and that's how we're going to start our stitching. When we finish doing our stitching, I will show you a way of weaving it under so you don't have little tails and stuff like that. All right, so we're going to come down, not right where we've gone into, so not where this stitch is ended. We're going to come down about 1/8 of an inch along that line, going to come up, and we're going to go down where our last stitch came out. Okay, so we're essentially stitching backwards again, about down 1/8 of an inch. And what you want to do at this point is you want to actually make sure that you're consistent with your sizing of your stitches. So I'm using 1/8 of an inch as my guide, and I am just eyeballing it. It's not about super perfection, it's about enjoying the process, okay, and being as neat as you possibly can. So hopefully that is pretty still for you, and you can see that coming through. Okay, and as you can see, I'm just coming up and then going back down in. this is the most basic of ways of doing backstitch. Those that do backstitch a little bit more advanced, who have done it for a while, can do this in hand, and basically they do it in like a sewing method. Okay, so you can see there, that is the most basic way, and that's what you want it to look like. So you're going to repeat that all the way till you've covered all of the marked area with your backstitch. Now, if you were someone that is more experienced, okay, this is how you're probably doing it. So you go in, and then you will bring your needle out about 1/8 of an inch past where it's come up, and you will just sew that way. And you can see there that that was probably a little bit bigger than 1/8 of an inch, but you know, backstitching mid-air is not easy. So you can see there that that becomes a little bit quicker. So if you've not done backstitch before, I suggest you do it the first way that I've done it. If you've done it before, then you know how to do it, and this is a more advanced way of doing it. But if you haven't tried it before, give it a go, see how you go. I'm sure that you'll be able to do it. Okay, so I'm going to continue that on, and then once we're finished, I finish this thread, I will show you how to end off and restart another thread. Okay, so I'm coming up to getting close to the end of my thread. Now, I don't like to play thread chicken, so I will leave a little bit of a tail so I've got something to work with. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're coming to the end, and I'm going to flip that over, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just weave that through back down that stem. So you can see there that I'm just weaving it through, and it's not adding any bulk or anything like that, and I won't actually have a knot there. So I'm going to come all the way down, and then I will go across here, and then I will go up here, and then I will take my needle out, and then I'm going to get my thread snips, and I'm going to snip that as close, like daringly close to where I've just weaved it through without snipping into what I've already stitched. And what that will do is not give me any tail. So that's not going to come undone. That's weaved through quite nicely, and I've weaved it through enough so I've gone up and over around it, and you can see there that that hasn't changed anything here. Now also I had to come back down here, and you can see I've crossed over, stitched one, and then come down slightly, and that is running along the edge. Now when I finish another strand, I will try to incorporate that into there, and that will make it nice and neat on the back. Alright, so you are going for neatness on the back because this will be seen underneath your inner facing. Okay, so just make sure you are as neat as possible. Now you are also going to have some jump threads, so don't be disappointed if you do, and I'm going to show you again how to do that loop start and where I'm going to make my little jump thread go so it actually looks like it's part of the stitching without being very noticeable. Alright, so I'm going to thread my needle again. So again, you're just going to grab out one strand, maybe not, okay, and you're going to thread your needle. So you're going to take your two loose ends, bring them up together so you've got a loop down one end, so you can see there, and then you're just going to thread your needle. I don't like to work with really long threads when I'm doing embroidery because the nature of the stitching can be a little bit problematic, and you may end up with a bit of a mess on the back. So if your threads become uneven like mine do, you just line up those two cut edges and hold them in place. Okay, run your needle down and just get it and rethread it again. Mine just didn't go through evenly. Just it's being a bit temperamental. Got a bit of a fluffy end there too. So all right, so we'll try that again, and then yeah, just it can be a bit tricky to get it to stay even, but I just place my finger and get it through, place my finger in, and just have a little bit of a tail there. But you can see I've got 2 cut ends and I've got that loop. And again, we're going to go in from the top about a 1/4 inch away from where we just ended. So this is my last stitch that I've done. Okay, and the reason that I can either start here or I can start there. But I'm going to start here because I'm going to show you how I'm going to do a little jump stitch. Okay, so I'm going to come down about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to go in, and then I'm going to come up where my last stitch ended. I'm going to bring my loop down, but I'm not going to pull it all the way through. I'm going to put the needle through the end of the loop, then I'm going to pull that tight, and before I pull it right down onto the fabric, you can see there that it's not right down. I'm just going to go in where my last stitch ended, above that loop, and I'm just going to pull that down, and you can see there that that gives me exactly the same stitch that I started with down here, and no knot on the back. Okay, and again I'm going to go back to the basic way of doing a back stitch for the beginners to get used to the amount of fabric they need to leave under their stitch. Okay, it is hard to gauge that when you're a beginner, so hopefully that will help you a little bit. Okay, so I've come to the end there, and now I've got to fill in this bit down here. So I'm going to bring my stitch down, and you can see that's running alongside there. So it's not a massive jump stitch, and it's quite concealed. It looks like it's part of the back, part of the stitching. And I'm just going to go up to the end, using, as I said, about 1/8 of an inch. It can be a little bit bigger if you find that that's easier for you. You know, I'm not perfect when I'm doing it. I do wobble, and I do, you know, sometimes my stitches end up a little bit bigger and all the rest of it, but I do strive to get around about the 1/8 of an inch. Alright, so I'm going to just keep going up here, and you can see here some of them are a little bit smaller, but that's okay, it's handmade and it adds to the character of it. Okay, so, and we've just got one little stitch that we've got to do off here. Okay, so you can see here that I'm coming up, and I need to get over to stitch this leaf out. So what I'm going to do, this was my last stitch that I'd done. So what I'm going to do is, this is the closest spot for me to go. So I'm just going to come up there, and then I'm going to do that first stitch. Okay, like so. And you can see it actually looks like, the jump stitch actually looks like it's part of the leaf on the back. So it's not a big jump stitch. You want to get as close as you can to where you need to go without making a large jump stitch. So when we look from over this side, you can barely see it. So this is where I've come out. This is my jump stitch just here, and you can see that that just looks like part of the twig. All right, so now what we can do is we can continue on. So that has 2 little stitches there, and then I'm going to come down this way. So I'll come down about 1/8 of an inch on that next line, and then I'll go in to create my point of my leaf. Okay, and then I'm going to continue that all the way around, but I'm not going to bore you with that in the video. You've been shown how to finish it now. You finish your piece exactly the same way, and then next we're going to move on to adding our interfacing on the back. Okay, so we have stitched out our little design, and now what we need to do is put our interfacing on the back. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your iron and your ironing pad. You're going to grab a little ruler or a tape measure, whichever one you're using, and we're going to press our area that we're going to work on. Now again, you do not want to have a really hot iron for this. You just want it to be on a warm setting. Okay, then we're going to flip that over and set that aside for just a second. We're going to grab a piece of Vilene, and it should be measuring about 3 1/4 inches square, and that's about 8 centimeters. And one side is bumpy, so that's the fusible side, and the other side is smooth. All right, so I'm just going to grab my ruler and cut a little bit off here, and just rotary cutter. cut a little bit off, move that out of the way. And then I'm just going to cut this at, as I said, 3 1/4. Okay. And so we've got that little square. We're going to bring back our ironing pad again. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cover up our embroidery like so. Okay, this is fine. You can use your, you can wash it and everything like that with this, but this is just going to protect it a little bit more. It's going to stop things from catching on it, and it's just going to conceal it. Okay, now when you put this down, you want the bumpy side to go to the wrong side of your fabric. Okay, so this is our right side, this is our wrong side, and then we're just going to place that on top, and you can see there that all of our embroidery is concealed underneath that inner facing, and I've got the bumpy side facing the wrong side of the fabric, and then I'm just going to press that in place. And when I'm finished, I'll let it cool a bit, and then I'll just check those corners. You can see that that's not lifting up, and that's it. Our little napkin is now ready to be used. It can be washed. You have no fear of your stitching coming undone or anything like that. And then these make a beautiful addition to any table. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial that went along with the pattern in Down the Rabbit Hole magazine. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you've got any questions at all, please leave them down in the comments and we will check back regularly. Alternatively, you can contact me over on Darvanalee Designs Studio or on Down the Rabbit Hole magazine's Facebook or Instagram page. So either way, you'll be able to get me. All right, well, have a great day, everybody. Enjoy making your napkins, and I look forward to seeing them. Don't forget to tag us on the social medias so that we can see what you've been up to. Have a great day, and bye for now.